going, and I will bow out.
Hey, Scott, will you mute everybody when the screen, when I have PowerPoint up, I can't
Sure.
find the mute all.
It will also mute Susan. So
Oh,
Susan, you will have to unmute yourself. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody.
Good morning, everybody. Today's talk is entitled Mindful Intentions. So I have chosen a contemplative from Living the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. Following the contemplative, there'll be a minute of silence, and take these words in and see if there's part of them or a couple of them that speak to you. So just take a couple of minutes to settle, to let go what has gone on before, and to open. Nothing is more definite than mental work. Mental work is not daydreaming or fantastic wishing. It is a deliberate act of the mind, a conscious, moving action of thought in a certain definite direction, and we should think of it from this viewpoint. We use thought not as willpower, not as concentration, not as coercion, but always with definite direction and conscious intention.
I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, to help you awake to all the wonder that you are. I long to show you all the joy you're worthy of. I'm here to remind you how much you're truly loved.
And knowing that love is the overriding creative force of this universe. I know that we all are filled with it. We live it. We have it as our very being. God is our uniting force, our unifying force. And as we align with that, as we open our hearts to the knowledge that yes, we are one with it, but we are one with each other. And I know that all of our intentions are spoken from this heart, this place of love, to live the most joyous, the most productive, the most creative and happy lives that we possibly can. And so I know we set our intentions with clear direction. And I know that we open for all the possibilities that are going to be put in front of us to make this vision come true. And I know that we come together via Zoom, via however we can. And I know that even those who are not with us today in physical form are with us in heart and mind and soul. And so I just hold this congregation and this community and this world into a big hug, sending it love, sending it peace, and sending it guiding light to do what is the best for us to do, what is the best for all those in leadership to do. I know that we are waking to a brand new, beautiful life where compassion, where love, where caring are the most powerful emotions and thoughts and actions that there is. And so I bless each one today. I bless each and everyone in our community. I just bless the world because it is gorgeous, it is beautiful, and it is waking up to a bright and more perfect future. And I just let it be, and so it is.
I long to show you all the joy you're worthy of. I'm here to remind you how much you're truly loved.
And now I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Angelica.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to, whoops. I moved the wrong direction. Okay. I'm going to stop the share for a minute. And I'm really happy this morning that we have a wonderful person as our guest speaker. She and I have known each other for a long time, which she reminded me of last week. We met in Cairo, Egypt, which is an interesting place to meet somebody. But we were both on a tour together that was absolutely wonderful. So what I want to tell you about her is that she did her training up with Kathy Ann Lewis in the Seattle church and then was part of that church as a minister for a while. And then she went down to the Monterey church, a beautiful building in a beautiful area, as most of us know, and was minister down there, and now is a sort of a traveling minister, or a Zoom minister, you might say, for right now. So I know also that she is a very conscious person, a warm and loving person. And so let's welcome Reverend Liz Mirante. And let me suggest that you put your Zoom screen on speaker view so that you get to see her. There's no PowerPoint right now, so you get to see her while she talks. So let's welcome Reverend Liz Mirante. Yay.
Well, good morning, Eureka. Thank you, Angelica, for having me. Yeah, I think, wow, it was 94, so I was counting it up this morning. So 25 years, I wasn't a minister yet, so I was just barely starting ministerial school. So yes, we've bumped into each other in many places, although actually none quite as exotic as Cairo. But, so I'm grateful that she welcomed me here. And I recently found out something really cool about Eureka that I hadn't known. According to Sunset Magazine, you are one of like 7 cities in the country where people do the most service. I can't remember how, of course, you know, I said, oh yeah, and I not probably articulating it quite the way it said, but I was just like, cool on you guys. And I'm sure that all of you are a part of that consciousness that created that. So it's an honor to be with you today. And as was mentioned, I love, Scott, the way that you intro things. So we've got the theme, mindfulness for Mavericks, and it's been fascinating. I don't know if you felt this way, Angelica, but all these themes, which were written so long ago, have been so appropriate to these wild times we find ourselves in. And so mindfulness is really appropriate right now as we figure out how to be in this world. The importance of our mindfulness, the importance of our awareness of how we are being, how we are showing up, and how we want to show up to create the world that we want to create. So it's important. And for many of you, today's kind of a review and sort of a great setup for Scott's workshop, actually, on intentions and stuff. And if you're like me, I know this stuff, and then I sometimes forget to practice it to the full power that I have, and recognize that it's not just for my life, but for the planet. So I'm not expecting to tell you anything you don't know today, but we'll all review together. And for some of you, it might be something new. So basically, we are talking about intentions and why they are so powerful and why it is important to be mindful of them. One of the things that's true, Ernest Holmes kind of, as you read his stuff, he sometimes sort of seems to contradict himself, because although we talk about, and we will talk about today, the importance of trained thinking, one of the things that's really important to remember when we're talking about mindful intentions is that our little minds are working all the time, and they are always thinking thoughts. So that it's not just my word when I do a conscious, directed spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. It is not just that, it is every thought I think. In fact, Ernest Holmes said every thought is a prayer. So even though I don't want anybody here to go into that, oh my gosh, I just had a negative thought, my life is over. It's not that. But it's that so many of us have this ongoing little background noise of thoughts, and we want to pay attention to them to see if that background noise is noise that is supporting the world we want, the life we want, or not. David Bruner, one of our ministers, he does this thing that I love to copy, and it's not quite as effective not in front of you. But basically, he says when we do intentions and affirmations, especially when we're new to the game, we like say, I'm beautiful, I'm loving, I'm wise. We say it, we think, okay, that's it. We look in the mirror for 5 minutes, and then the rest of the day we go, oh, I'm such a jerk. Oh my gosh, I'm not enough. And this is so, 20 hours of negative self-talk is going to overcome the 5 minutes of positive self-talk. So the first thing in this mindfulness of intentions, we have to realize that the pattern, or as Ernest Holmes called it, the tendency of our thoughts, is really what creates our intentions and what creates our results. So first thing is, become aware, if you haven't or if you've forgotten, to what's really going on in there. Are you having good self-talk, positive self-talk, uplifting self-talk, self-talk in the direction that you want your life to go? Or have you fallen into habits, bad old habits, and or in this time of getting often contradictory news and heart-wrenching news? Is there a part of you saying, this is awful, this is never going to work, and staying in fear, and then you kind of avoid looking at it, but that little mind is operating? Is this making sense to any of you? It is to me. I just find that I have to really say, okay, what am I taking away from what I've read and what I've heard? What is that little automatic fear machine doing? And to really pay attention. Why is this so important? Well, here's the review piece. Here's what's central to our Science of Mind teaching. We teach that our word, the tendency of our habitual thoughts, moves onto something we call the law of cause and effect. There have been many names over the centuries for it. And it actually brings the tendency, the pattern of our thought and word into our lives. It actually attracts to us what we are thinking and being. and being. So, you know, we can also affirm and intend all we like, but if our heart and our whole vibration is one of fear or negativity, we are the magnet. Our consciousness, our energy, our vibration is the magnet. We will draw to us whatever is a vibrational match. So that's the premise for why these thoughts are important, because our thoughts matter. They make a difference. And as Ernest Holmes said in what was mentioned earlier, he talked about the importance of trained thought, because once we catch what we've been thinking and then really focus and do a spiritual mind treatment or an affirmation in the direction that we want, and we load it up with our own feeling and conviction, we do whatever we can to get in that place of saying, I know that despite what is going on, the world is unfolding in new and wonderful ways. The more that we can do that and catch that, the more we will see and create the kind of life we want to live. And that is that idea of conscious intention or mindful intention instead of unconscious intention, which is really just the thoughts we're thinking. Now, how this can happen without intentions, I was actually watching a talk by Reverend Michael Beckwith the other day, and he was talking about how without intention, without making those intentions for our life, without thinking consciously and with intent, that we get buffeted around by the world. We're simply living in reaction. Now, before this wonderful pandemic and a gradually waking up to the world that we've been creating for people of color, that maybe we thought things were going well, and kind of really waking up to not close. Even before then, we knew the importance of intention. Those of you who've gone on trips, probably all of you, and you all want to go this summer, or for meetings, if you don't have an intention for what you want to create in that meeting, for that trip, then as circumstances change or come up, or those little surprises, you just get buffeted around. There's a quote from the Hebrew scriptures, without vision, the people perish. Without intention, we don't know where we're going. Many of you have probably had the experience of having a sit down with somebody that you'd had conflict with. When you don't have an intention about how you want to show up in that meeting, that could go so sideways. So our intentions become the context for how we live, how we show up. They're the foundation of whatever occurs. So even when the unexpected shows up, when we really anchor that intention within us, then we are much more able to respond rather than react, because there is that driving force that we have already set our mind to. My first husband, who's the father of my children, we were married for almost 25 years. We decided to divorce. We decided to complete our marriage. And, you know, we didn't hate each other. We didn't want to get in a battle. And so we did something called a collaborative divorce. And I knew that was how I wanted to go when my attorney showed me the ground rules for how we would behave during our meetings and working out our agreement. Because I thought, this is who I this is who I want to have been during this process. So we had that intention to stay in integrity, to stay respectful, to know that we would work out when things got contentious, to know that there was a way, there was a win-win. And I'm happy to say we did that. And without having the support of being that intentional, even when you still care for somebody, stuff comes up. But we had that intention right in front of us. In fact, for most everything I take on, I do something called a sacred covenant or an unhidden agenda that one of our great teachers, Reverend Dr. Marcia Sutton, created, where you have intentions, not so much about what happens, but about what you want to experience through whatever the project or endeavor is. And that is that mindful intention. I want to be in love. I want to be in wisdom. I want to be true to myself. I want to be true to the highest that I know. Those kinds of mindful intentions guide and direct what we do. And as we practice those intentions, especially as we get clear on our own personal intentions for how, because each of us has some way that we really want to show up in this world. We might use some of the same words, but each of us gets to decide what is most important for us to experience on this planet. As we pray that and intend that and practice that, being mindfully intent, then that becomes the background noise, not the other little, but what if, oh, somebody's hurting me, oh, I knew they were out to get me. It's more no, and I intend to show up as a blessing on this planet. I intend to come from love. Those become the background so that we don't even always have to be conscious, but we've trained ourselves and our subconscious with mindful intent. As Michael said when he was giving that talk, he said, when we do that, when we practice those mindful intentions, that intention, especially those high intentions, become the law of our lives. Isn't that wonderful? Those high intents, I-N-T-E-N-T-S, those high intents or intentions become the law of our individual lives. So what do you want the law of your life to be? Do you want it to be love or wisdom or clarity or joy or peace? Or do you want it to be whatever gets triggered? Now, obviously, it's understandable why this works for us personally, because what we're thinking is reflected in our life. What we're thinking about ourselves, what we're thinking about our world, what we're intending, where we put our attention, that gets reflected back to us in our lives. There was, I'm reading a book called Women Rowing North. It's by, now all of a sudden I'm blanking on her name, but she's the psychotherapist who wrote Reviving Ophelia, which some of you may remember. It was about teen girls and what they face in this world now. But so she's written a book about women who's many of our ages and how we're recreating our lives. And she talks about, she had a chapter on conscious intent. I thought that's cool. And she talked about this woman named Marlene who grew up in very poverty-stricken circumstances and developed epilepsy. So that limited what she could get in terms of work. But she was very clear. She was very clear that no matter what financial and health she could have in her life was going to be full of love and joy. She said, I choose love and joy. And so when the author met her and interviewed her, she maybe lived in a little trailer and, you know, maybe not in great surroundings, but she had a fun life because that was her intention. Because you can see attention and attitude trumps circumstances. You know, we sometimes get caught in that idea, oh, I'll be happy when or if I have this and that. No, we choose it, we intend it. And that attitude of receptivity to our intention trumps our circumstances. So what are you choosing? And if you're realizing that your life isn't the way you want it to be, look at what you've been choosing, because the good news is we can always re-choose. We can always re-choose. In fact, we can rewrite our story, the story of our life, the story of our experience, no matter what has happened to us, no matter if we've fallen off the rails, gotten cynical, we can draw ourselves back in to be that love and joy and peace that we know will lead us to a happier life, no matter what is going on out there. Perhaps more importantly, we all also contribute to this piece of the puzzle called creating the world we are in. And I would say right now is not the time to fool around with our thinking. Right now, because we know how important our thinking is, we need to set clear intentions for ourselves for the world we each want to see, because it matters. And what we bring, because we know about trained thought, because we know, and if you didn't or had forgotten before this talk, you know, and then you'll take Scott's workshop and then you'll really get in there. We know how important it is that we send love, that we know, start focusing our attention on what can be possible instead of getting admired in what is. And we don't even know what is because the news changes every week. This is the time to take our power for the world by harnessing our thought. So I'm asking you to mindfully create intentions that become your vision. Really, your intentions become your vision for the world you want to see. And so as we practice daily thinking, it's not just for our lives, but practice daily. I think you're all familiar with the word visioning and maybe with the practice to, if you haven't done that as a practice, or if you used to and have fallen off, to spend some time each day visioning the world you want to see. It's really vital to go beyond what seems to be in front of us, but the world you want to see. Because that starts to lift the vibration. It starts to lift your vibration. It starts to lift everyone's vibration, so we can start attracting more love, more peace, more joy. That our mindfulness allows us to pay attention and also redirect those thoughts, those fear thoughts. And if you can't seem to redirect your fear thoughts, it's a great time to see a practitioner. Great time to work with a practitioner whose faith you can borrow, as we say in Seattle. But redirect your thoughts toward your highest intentions. Or in the words of Howard Thurman, probably the #1 African-American theologian of our time. He was the dean of, I can't remember which university, but he called our highest intention, he called it our highest resolve. And he wrote a wonderful essay, which was really a reminder to himself. And I found a short little prayer that says the essence of it. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in good time or in tempest, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. I'll read that again. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in good time or in tempest, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Well, we're in tempest right now. And the way to keep our high resolve in front of us is literally to keep it in front of us, to daily practice. So what I'd like to do is to give you an example as a little closed eye of how you can vision an idea for a vision that actually is from our Centers for Spiritual Living. It's called our Global Vision, a world that works for everyone. And later, Reverend Angelica will put this up, and there's a way that you can get this and print it out if you like this, or you can write your own, or you can adapt this. So I invite you to close your eyes for this to take in this wonderful vision. We envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God. We see a world in which every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where every person discovers his, her own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the personal, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. We envision a world where each person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging. A world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement and justice. We envision a world in which resources are valued, cared for, and grown, and where there is generous and continuous sharing of these resources. We envision a worldwide culture in which forgiveness, whether for errors, injustices, or debts, is the norm. We envision a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, arts, and aesthetics. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. And so I give thanks as we come together in this consciousness that we recognize the power of our mind, of our thought, of our intention. And so I know this time, this moment, that power and presence within us, which is God, now downloads itself as that intentionality. As I choose, as each of us chooses what to make our lives about in contribution to a life that is wonderful and a world that works for everyone. So right now I claim for each of us the power to intend love, to intend peace, to intend abundance, to intend joy, to intend creativity. To intend an idea that goes beyond what we have ever seen in terms of a world, recognizing its unity and the preciousness of each person on this planet, and the good that is theirs in finding meaning and purpose. I give thanks that each of us has the power to join in this kind of intention for the good of all. And I know that as I do this daily, I bring about a world in which this can come to pass. I give thanks for this knowing for myself. I give thanks for each and every person who joins me in this knowing. And I release this word, knowing it is already so. It is already moving upon the law. It is already coming into being. Thank you, God. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Reverend Liz. Thank you. Unfortunately, I did not do the whole, wait just a minute.
Whoops.
I just did this part. So
okay.
on the global vision. So I will print it in the Monday email that goes out tomorrow for everybody. And thank you for reading that. That is absolutely beautiful. I loved every one of those statements.
Well, I remember we worked in when we were two. There was a convention that we actually worked on. People got together to work on phrases for different things, and then I think it got changed a little when over the years it got changed a little bit, and then when we became one organization, then we might have adapted a little more. But I find that it's easier for me to take something and then make it my own than sometimes think it up all by myself. So
yep,
I invite you to use that.
This is good. Thank you very much.
Because you matter. We all matter.
That's right. All right. So